I like to dedicate my time to talking to me 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where I was 20 years ago, I like to pretend anyway, or at least try to be the voice that I wish I would have had back then. It's a little different now, but it's always kind of like my situation where I was formerly undocumented living here. Um, it used to be very hush hush, kind of like you didn't say anything to anybody about it. It was a shocker that, DACA kind of changed that for the better, obviously, where now there's at least some state between. It's
Yeah.
not binary anymore, right? So there's something there that there's a gap between that individuals can sort of go through and have a third option.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, I mean, it was yay or nay, either you had it or you didn't.
Mhm.
My name is Jesus, right, or Jesus, and now as I'm adopted, and my friends jokingly call me Jesus, which is always funny. But
Of course.
so my name is Jesus Campos. I do have a PhD from here and from Texas State, Southern University here in the state of Texas. Um, I was born in a border town in a Mexican border town called Matamoros. Have you heard of it?
I haven't. No.
No, it's a sister town to Brownsville, Texas. So it's touching the border with the other with Brownsville, Texas. So
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of Brownsville. Yep. Hmm.
yeah, we're literally, like Elon Musk has his like launch as a space city or whatever. It's right next to
Hmm.
Brownsville, which is right on the border. Like from my hospital, you could look out the window of Mexico and see the United States. Like you could throw a rock and hit it. So I was born there, and I came here when I was about one and a half. When I say here, to Houston. I've been in Houston, Texas all my life. I'm here now.
Okay.
Um, and I came here when I was about one and a half, which has always been kind of interesting for me because, folks tell me that, or they ask me like, "Hey, you're Mexican," and they ask me questions about like Mexico, and I'm like, I'm Mexican in the way. Yes, I am for sure proud, and I was born there, and I have dual citizenship. But I don't know the place, man. I'm not gonna lie to you either and pretend like I grew up running around Mexican streets. I didn't. I grew up
Right. Yeah.
as I was kind of like a first gen but illegal, which was kind of a scam, man. I got shafted out of both. Like I was I'm first gen, and but I never even got to live there. But I'm not because I'm yeah. Anyway, it was a bit of a mix up. So yeah, I grew up in Houston all my life, and been here ever since.
Yeah. 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 No, I think that. I mean, that makes sense. Why you would also kind of have that like kind of like an identity like issue, kind of like an identity crisis, right? Because I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's like a crisis, but like just kind of growing up where you're
Nah,
like, it's like,
it's real. And it's more real than people give it credit to it because
yeah.
I'll have friends talk to me, be like, "Oh, you know what's going on with that Mexican president? You heard?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't
Oh
know. I don't
yeah,
know.
you're like,
I don't know the political party they're in. I don't know how many states are in Mexico. I
yeah.
don't know. I speak Spanish. I am fluent in
Hmm.
Spanish, but even that, as soon as I speak it over there, they know I'm not. You know what I mean? Like you're not really
Yeah.
so. And I'm not. I'm not about the poor me mentality. If anything, I'm opposed to it. But it does start to make you feel like, well, damn, man, I'm not a citizen here. I can't even get a driver's license here, but
Yeah.
I'm also not from there. So what the hell? I'm kind of screwed here.
Yeah. So what was your childhood like then? When you kind of having that mentality, um, well, did you know like you were undocumented, or
I
was
found
there?
out.
Okay,
Yeah, there
because
was a
there's
moment.
always yeah, because
There was a
a
moment.
lot
Yeah.
of people have the that moment where they're like, wait, I can't like do that, and then why? And, so yeah, yeah, give
Yeah,
us
yeah. So my moment came, I think it was probably second or third grade. In fact, I remember that there's two teachers from Bain Elementary. This is a school here in Houston. If any,
okay. Shout
and
out
it
Bain
was Miss
Elementary.
Sullivan. It's crazy how these things are like core memories, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else from this time period, but I remember this moment and the people who were involved. Miss Perales and Miss Sullivan, I think, were the two teachers, and we were going on a field trip. And
Hmm.
you had to go home and have your parents sign the permission slip. And then there was name, address, emergency contact, and they asked for the social security number. And so,
Oh, they asked
so
for a social security number on a
yeah, which
field
is
trip.
kind of sketchy now that I think
I
about
don't
it.
think I've
Yeah.
ever had like a slip asked for a social. That's wow. Okay, interesting.
It might have been, I'm trying to think. I think So we actually did this thing where we went to Alabama, from Houston to Alabama, to attend space camp there. So
Oh,
it might have
okay.
been tied to that. So where we actually had to fly on a
Yeah,
plane,
maybe.
if I remember, something like that.
Okay.
But they
Yeah,
did ask for it, and I was like, "Okay, mom, ¿qué es mi número social?" Or what? And
yeah.
she's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you don't have one." I'm like, "What? What is that? I don't know what that means." It's the first time I came across the name Social Security. I didn't know anything about that world, right? Um,
yeah. Yeah.
so she just said, she drew a line through it, and she said, just tell your teacher that you don't have one, but we're working to get you one really soon. I remember something like
Okay.
that, right? In
Yeah.
Spanish. So I tell my teacher that, and she gave me the look, man. The look like, oh, you're one of
Oh,
those.
oh
Okay,
boy.
yeah. So
You
then I
know.
realized, then I started asking questions. Then I think I asked friends like, hey, do y'all have a social security number? Because
He's
apparently
like,
I
"Hey,
don't.
is it normal to not have a social security
Yeah,
number?"
so that's when I found out, like, oh shoot, man, this
Oh
sucks.
man.
But it
Yeah.
didn't hit. I mean, it doesn't really matter as a kids though. And I tell this to people all the time, like when you're in third grade, what do you do that requires a social security number? You don't really do anything. You don't drive.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
really you can do.
Yeah.
But when you hit high school, that's when it really starts to. I know I'm preaching to the choir. When you hit high school though,
Mm-hmm.
and people start talking about college, people start getting their first jobs, people start getting driver's license,
Yeah.
that's when it really starts to hit home.
Yeah, and especially I think for me, like I knew I was undocumented just because I came over here when I was 7 years old from Guatemala.
Hmm.
So, I remember a lot of just, crossing and coming over here. And obviously, I came into the country. So that's how I knew I wasn't part, like, I knew I wasn't obviously born there. But when you're that young, you're like, you grow up there. That's your home, right? But
Yeah.
it also didn't really hit me till I was like in high school, and especially like when I don't like a lot of high schools do like field trips to like I don't know if this is normal for a lot of high schools. I mean, I went to the Princeton one, but like our choir went to like Italy and like
Oh,
some
no, we
like
definitely do nothing
Rome.
like that.
Yeah,
Or at least
like
I wasn't invited to those. But
yeah, and some senior like groups do some like their whole grade goes to like Disney World. I
dang,
know, yeah,
that's crazy.
and our Spanish class went to like Peru. So, anyways, I wasn't able to like partake in any of that, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly. I
that
wasn't.
sucks.
Yeah. But for me, so that's where a lot of stories go. And so the weird thing for me, and the one thing I advocate for a lot is undocumented college students, and that's really
Mm-hmm.
where, if it hit you in high school, God, it hits you hard as hell in college, dude. In college,
Yeah,
it's you're fighting a losing fight because it's the only fight that exists, and so your chances are slim anyway. But it's what else do you have?
yeah,
This is all you
right.
got. You know what I mean? Is a chance to go to college, get a degree. You hope, even if it's not here in America, back in your home country or whatever. If you're forced to go back, it's a losing fight. But yeah, it's the only one we got. So I did that, and that was really detrimental, dude. That was really bad. Not having a driver's license and going to college, like
Oh
not
boy.
living on campus because you can't afford it. No FAFSA,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
having to pay cash. I mean, it was pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, take us just to a little bit into that world, just a little bit um, of applying for colleges and how you even navigated that, what your decision was, what your options were, and how you even made it to college. Because just making it to college is a big accomplishment, for undocumented people.
Yeah, I think I'm a pretty big advocate, and I always tell people I live in the real world. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always sort of lived in that world. I was pretty naive early when I was younger, but generally speaking, I understood that there's what I want to do, and there's what I can do, and then there's what I have to do to kind of make it happen. So the
Yeah.
answer to your question is pretty early on. I said, okay, my parents, my mom cleans hotel rooms for a living, and my dad is like a laborer at a construction job. We don't have any money, we're barely making
Yeah.
it through. And at the time when I went to college, I graduated in 2006 from high school. I didn't go to college until '07.
Okay.
I took a semester off. I was working, but it was like during the housing crisis. You know, you're a little younger, but during that
Okay.
time it was an economic crisis. So
Yep.
a housing crisis. So we actually lost our house at that time. It was a brutal time for us. And so
Jeez.
here I am. It's like, hey mom, I know you have this mortgage you can't afford, but can you pay my college tuition for this degree that I can't use because I can't even work, you know? And so
Yeah.
you start to realize, okay, this is the real world. This is my situation. So I said, okay, I'm going to get my associate's degree as quickly and as cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
That was my goal, right? So then I looked around and I went to my local community college and I did that. And then I said, I'm going to get my bachelor's degree as quickly as I can while working. So I went to night school the whole time
Wow.
while paying cash that I can afford. How much is it going to cost? And then I did that. So I basically went into it with that kind of mindset. Kevin is saying, yes, I'm not tuning my horn, but I'm probably smart enough to go like to a state school or something like that. I could probably do that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's an unrealistic expectation given my circumstance. Is that fair? Well, like I told myself at the time, life's not fair. It is what it is. These are my cards, and I just played them
Right.
as best as I could. You know what I mean? And
I,
that's the message I always tell people in similar situations.
that's that sounds very similar to how I navigated it too in high school. I had a lot of friends going to a lot of prestigious schools. And I'm like, I don't even know if I should apply to like these different ones. Just pay that application fee.
Yeah.
Having to do FAFSA knowing that you're gonna get denied, by the way, is so messed up. Like psychologically, I don't know if you probably have to do that too, but like I know
No, I
that
didn't
just
even do it
doing,
because were you under DACA when you went?
yeah,
See,
yeah, I was,
I wasn't, but I did
yeah,
qualify for some other small stuff, but not FAFSA. So
yeah,
I never applied for FAFSA.
yeah. But that's the thing. It's like DACA doesn't even qualify for FAFSA either. So then, like while I was applying, I was doing like an online portal application, I guess like a common app or whatever. Before you can like even apply to colleges, they're like, oh yeah, you have to complete your FAFSA. I'm like, oh okay, but I'm not gonna get FAFSA because I don't qualify for it. Like, yeah, but you have to like you have to apply for it. I don't know how it is now, but like, yeah, you have to apply for it and get
Yeah.
denied, and then you can like, and I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
that is so like
It makes you feel
that,
that imposter
yeah, some
syndrome
type of
hits
way.
so hard at that moment, right? When you feel like I'm not really doing this, then this is all fake. I don't have a shot here. It feels like that. You know what I
It
mean? It
was so
starts to feel like,
demoralizing. And on
yeah.
top of that, you have to like pay the application fees, and you're like, I don't even know if I'm gonna get accepted, and like what comes after that. I'm working already, like trying to help like my parents with money and like the bills, and now you feel kind of selfish using that money towards. Even though obviously it's
Oh,
good for you, but like it's a good investment and like it's good for your education and like but you can't help but feel a type of way. Um, and I just kind of leads me into like what kind of emotions were you kind of facing while going through that process?
yeah. Well, guilt for sure, man. I mean, guilt for sure because it does feel, and you'd be lying. I would argue that anyone in our situation, even though you at least had DACA, which I mean, it's not that great, but you had something. You
Yeah,
said I could at least work post graduation. I could
right.
get a
Yeah,
job that I didn't even have the option to work after graduation. So I was doing
right.
it I was doing it because it was the one path that would progress me forward
Yeah,
in some capacity, right? So for sure, extra guilt there because I'm taking the limited resources that could go to my family that my parents have,
right.
and I'm saying put it in this book. I like as in hindsight, we would like put it in this meme coin, right? Because it's like we don't even know if this is gonna pay off. We don't know. We don't know what this is gonna be,
Yeah.
and but put it in it, trust in me, I guess, and we'll go through with it. That's the first part. The second part is I felt probably when I got into my master's program, I started to feel like I really started to feel, I feel like I kind of had a moment of reckoning where it hit me like, hey, I'm kind of kidding myself here. You know what I mean?
Like you're
Like,
in over your head type of thing.
yeah, and I'm sort of I'm going a little bit too. I got the bachelor's, I
Yeah.
still couldn't work, so I went straight into graduate school because I didn't have a green card or nothing, so I went
Yeah.
straight to graduate school. And then in graduate school, when people were talking about to PhDs and these professions, and people are already working, they're doing internships, which I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing, and then
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I'm really missing out on a lot of things I'm supposed to be doing, um, chasing this dream. So yeah, a little bit upset about the situation at that point. It really hit you because I take the picture of graduation. Everyone saying, "Congratulations, you graduated from college. You know, hey, you're in grad school. Congratulations, you're presenting at this conference or whatever you're doing." But it's just
Yeah.
like, dude, I can't freaking work at McDonald's. You know,
Yeah. You're like, I'm gonna have like my
I
like
can't.
masters, like my
Exactly. I'm
PhD,
gonna be the
and
most
I'm gonna go into
educated.
McDonald's.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the most educated day laborer in the world, man. But that's what it
Right.
is, right? I mean, that's just what
Hey,
it
you know
goes.
what?
But
Hell yeah.
that's just what it goes, dude. It's just like it
Yeah.
is what it is. But I never, but I always said, okay. Another thing I always advocate for is I said, okay, yeah, this sucks. This isn't ideal, but I
Mm-hmm.
got something. I
Yeah.
got something, right? I got this degree. I
Yes.
got a graduate. This is better than moping around and doing
Yes.
nothing because I always said when it happens for me,
Mhm.
whenever my paperwork goes through, whenever my application goes through, I want to be ready for it to some extent. You know, I
Yeah.
couldn't do a lot of things like I couldn't go to law school because that was really out of the question. At the time, I wanted to be a police officer. I couldn't go to the academy, so a lot
Yeah.
of my options were taken off. So I just kind of made the best of it and kept pushing. And then when it happened, I was at least educated and ready for the workforce in some capacity.
Yeah, and that's such a big um kind of statement for why investing like in education is such a big like thing that I always advocate for. Obviously, there are other um paths than just going into higher education, but you have if it's something that you want to do and if it's something you want to pursue, then you should try and just do everything you can to get there because it is in my opinion the biggest best investment you can do because to myself I always told and it sounds like you're very similar mindset you have a very similar mindset that I do where I always told myself like I don't know what I want to do like but I want to get a degree and I'm not sure if I'm even going to be able to use it but I know that this is like the right thing to do for me for my future, no matter what. Because even in the back of my head, I'm always just like, even if I get deported, like I'll have that like that knowledge in my head,
You get
like
to
that
walk
can't be
around.
taken away. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like what? Like okay, I'll get deported, and okay, but I have that knowledge. Even just speaking English is would be so beneficial, like back in our countries. Like that
that's
is
what I
a,
was thinking too.
you know.
That was my sentiment anyway. I'll be walking around Mexico with a diploma, like, look at me. Yeah. But yeah, that was
Right.
my logic. I was like, what else do I got anyway? And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I see it. So
Yeah. I mean, how are you able to like pay for all this? Because I know it's not cheap and I know it's, we don't get help at all. Now there's a little bit more like options as far as like scholarships and that you can apply for, but still can be limiting, depending if you like get accepted or not. But yeah,
yeah.
how do you afford it and how do you navigate that?
Another thing that, when we talk about affording college and these things, I think a lot of my friends and people that I speak to don't really understand that we are truly the children of immigrants. Meaning my parents came over with literally like 20 bucks in their pocket. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's where we started when I was two. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going from $20. So in one way, you can look at it like, hey, just graduating high school, you're already a success because you
Absolutely.
already exceeded them. And I don't want to get on the whole generational thing or
Yeah.
wealth or whatever, but it's true for us in our case that you didn't have the avenues that other people had. So a lot of people, one of the main arguments for let's say the no college movement, the recent one is that you can go get a job, you can go get an internship. A lot of these places do things. Yes, you can do a lot of these things and take risk when you have something to fall back on when mommy and daddy have an extra house that you can
Oh
live
yeah.
in and
Yeah, yeah.
but when our parents have a savings of $1,000, no 401k at 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the same options to go all in on things. Well, maybe you do, but the downfall is catastrophic for us, you know.
Oh
But
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a little different. So that's another element that often doesn't get talked about is that I couldn't depend on my parents for any money. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
like gas money,
It's
in which they
it's the
gladly give you,
opposite.
you know.
It's the opposite for us. Like they depend on
Right.
us for money. So
Correct. So it's like
on
I
top
gotta
of
pay these
that, right?
bills, I gotta pay
Mm-hmm.
tuition, I gotta graduate,
Yeah.
and you're competing against people who their sole thing they're doing is going to college. But hey,
Yep.
that's the game, right? But so to answer your question, then once now that I said that is I paid cash. I worked and I paid cash and I went to night school. Not
Yep.
ideal, not fun, missed out on a lot of what you call the college life. But again,
Yep.
it boils down to what I tell people all the time. You got to ask yourself the real question and say, if I'm going to get through this, if I'm going to see the other end of this, and I'm going to walk across the stage, what do I have to do to get it? And for me, it was I had to work full time and I had to go to night school.
Yep. No, absolutely. And through that whole process, and you got to kind of give us a little bit of insight into it, but like what just kept you from giving up? Like I know it's so easy for a lot of people just to be like, all right, I'm this is probably not for me. Like I'm done. Like
Yeah.
this is so much
Well,
money, and I don't even know if I'm gonna get a job like after this, and it's so many variables. So
yeah.
what did you keep telling yourself? How do you motivate yourself to get through it?
So funny story. The reason after I graduated high school, I told myself I had basically given up. So I said, I'm just gonna, I guess, work manual labor. At the time, I was working at a warehouse for cash, and I was like, I'm just gonna do this and figure out my way through life from that point on.
Yeah.
And I was dating a girl at the time, and her parents were both judges, and they went to the University of
Oh wow.
Texas. So they were like really educated. They were Hispanic people, but they were very educated. They're like third generation Mexicans.
Oh okay.
And so basically, and now granted, I'm 20 years older now, so this is kind of almost silly to talk about. But I remember her saying, "My dad said I can't date you if you're not going to college." And so that next semester, I enrolled into college. Didn't
Oh
have no idea. So
man, yeah,
that's the honest answer why it started,
yeah.
why it kept going beyond that short relationship that thereafter was because I I was kind of lucky in that I didn't have anything to fall back on.
Right. Okay.
Right. So again, it's if I had other options, maybe I'd say,
It'd be
you know,
easier, right?
screw this college thing. I can go work.
Mm-hmm.
I work at this startup with my friend or my dad's friend can get
Yep.
me in as in this nonprofit, and I can go down that route. I didn't have any connections. I didn't have anything else to fall back on.
Yep.
So what kept me going was, okay, this is the one I'm looking at all the I'm looking at society. I'm looking at the things that they value. I don't have money. Probably can't get that anytime soon. Not in my situation. Um, they value education, right? And they value other
Of
things.
course.
So
Yeah.
I chose education, and I just went down there because it's the only obtainable kind of value that society would have. So I said, I want to be valuable. I'm in a shitty position, but I want to add value to myself. The best way to do it for me was to get educated, to be that overly educated person. So I just kept going. That's what drove me, man, because I was like, I gotta succeed in something. I can't just be failure. I can't just be an undocumented failure. I gotta do something. You know what I mean? So I always say that, man. I never focus on what I can't do. I always try to focus on what you can do, and even undocumented, not even or DACA, I'm sure it's similar, but even if you're totally undocumented and you're 20 years old in college,
Yeah.
you could train to run a marathon. You could learn another language. All these things are free, right? You could do all sorts of other things. Now it might be difficult, but they're doable and they are things that get you ahead. So just there's plenty of things that you can try to focus on that get you ahead. And education is one of those things for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, it's about playing. Just you know, something you said that also kept telling myself is like you have to just play with the cards that you're dealt, right? Like we're given these bad cards and you just have to navigate life through them. You have to open your own doors. You have to build the damn door yourself and then open it, right?
Correct.
That's what I always
Correct.
have to
You have to do
like
it. And you also have to be grateful, man. Like
yeah.
because there's people back in Mexico, or you're from
Mhm.
Guatemala, right? From
Yep.
Guatemala.
Yep,
Okay, there's
Guatemala.
people in Guatemala who would kill to be in your position. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So you're
Yeah.
gonna have to be grateful for, and it sucks because you're like, dang, well, but compared to this guy, but so one, you have to, you have to take it relative, I guess. And the second thing
Yeah.
is a lot of people who I talk to, and even myself back in those days when I was going through it, when I was in my 20s. I mean, I had loving parents, I had supportive brothers, I had a good health. So there's things I had for sure that other people don't have.
Yeah.
That they're probably like, you're so lucky that you had that. You know what I mean? So yeah, you can't just focus on the one thing you're missing. You also, yeah, make it, put it into perspective and relative to the things that you do have. And so a lot of us have a loving and supporting family. Not all, not all people, but
Yeah.
I did. It sounds like you might have had parents that
Yeah.
supported you. So
Yep.
you at least had that to get you through it. So I look at it like I had some good things too,
Yeah, it's
maybe that helped
perspective.
out a bit.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's like it's a perspective. I'm a big perspective guy where it can it can be worse. That doesn't mean you can't complain. You can't be like, pull my hair out, like this sucks and
Sure.
like this and that. But it also means like, yeah, it could be worse. It could always be worse, and you got to keep yourself grounded and just do whatever you need to do to keep you motivated. I'm a huge like mindset guy. That's how I got through my like.
For
That's how I
sure,
get
dude.
through my days to begin with too. It's just like perspective. Like, yeah, like this was inconvenient, but like it could be something worse. Like I don't know, I could have gotten into an accident or something, but I'm here. I have my health. I have my family,
Yeah.
and I have like loving friends, and I'm again thankful for the little things that are really big things in your life too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that was my biggest thing, was just like mindset. So I think a lot of people just have to um it's a whole mental game, especially with everything that we have to deal with, all the outside forces that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
So it makes me also curious to know, because you're no longer undocumented, right?
I'm not, no.
So I'm curious how that transition was, and was it during while you were going to college, or was it after?
It was in grad school, man. It was in 20, I graduated undergrad in 2010
Okay.
when Barack Obama was president, way back when
Yep.
it was like first term type stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I got into grad school immediately thereafter, so like fall of 2010 or something.
Okay.
And then like summer of 2011, I got my work permit. So
Wow.
I was halfway through my master's program when it hit. And
Wow.
then I just got a job like within a week, because I knew some people, and so I got a job, and so I did that, and then I finished my master's program in like 2013, and in 2016 I decided to go get my PhD, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna treat it like I did my first two, go to night school, pay for it cash, and don't take any student loans out, and then I just did the same thing and did that part time, and it took me 5 years, 6 years to finish that. So,
Wow. That's
but I
amazing.
graduated debt free, so that's kind of cool because I treated it in my mind. I was like, hey, it kind of worked for me already. So
Yeah.
even though
I
I
mean,
have,
you had like your little system down at that point,
yeah, I had
right?
my
Why
system
stray
down.
away from it?
Why straight and then why go in debt for it? So I was like, I'll
Yeah.
do it if I don't have to go in debt for it.
That's
So I
even
just
more amazing. Like you really you walked away
but
without
you know how tempting it
debt.
was, Kevin. Because when I went to the fast food place, I'm like, you're telling me I
Yeah.
could get 40 G's just tapping this key right here, dude? Like,
No. That
no, I didn't
yeah.
do it. But think
Yeah.
about it. Like
Right. No, no, yeah. When
at
you're that
18, you
young
know what I mean? I
and they
mean, I
just
was,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
yeah. So I
They
was
should
like, but this is
not
how
be able to
easy it
do
is.
that.
Like, this is more money that they were willing to give me for one semester of college than my parents have ever seen saved up in their life.
Yeah.
And they were
Right.
willing to give it to you just cash money. It blew my mind, it blew my mind to see how easy it was to get. And this was less because this is like the grad loan. So they offer less. So it was like 20,000 or somewhere for 30,000 a semester. But
Yeah.
that's an insane amount of money, man. So
Yeah, I think it's even crazy that they allow you to just like sign that like at that age. Like you don't know like a lot of people don't know at that age about finances. They don't like
Don't know
interest
it.
rates. You're
Yeah,
not coming out of
dude.
high school with that knowledge like
Dude,
that
I'm,
you
I'm
should be, but
yeah, and you do like finance stuff, right?
oh yeah, yeah. I
So,
in my day job, I'm a financial analyst and like data analyst, so
mhm.
do a little
So
bit of
you
both.
know like how compounding interest works and these things, but
Yeah,
these are all
yeah,
like these are all such foreign things. And it's another thing. It's
yeah.
like on a similar topic that like my mom is probably my third favorite person in this world next to my kids, and fourth next to my wife. Sorry, I gotta say that. I get well, top five. I'll just say that. All right,
Top
top
five,
five,
top five.
top five. But she didn't teach me anything about any of that, right? Because she didn't know, so I can't
Cause
blame her for
yeah,
it. She never had a
yeah,
bank account. She never had
right.
a
Just
credit card. She doesn't
money under the
know.
mattress. Yeah.
She doesn't know any of these things. So like,
hmm
and you find it a lot even for people my age, um,
Yeah.
who grew up in a similar background. Like when you go get a mortgage, you don't know what amortization rates are. You don't know that you're paying interest up front for the first 10. So if you overpay, you drop you get more towards the principal, which
hmm
reduces the interest you pay in the long. None of that is taught to us, Kevin. Right?
Nope.
We're just very straightforward people. Go, don't steal, don't commit crimes,
Make
kind of
money.
don't get
Make your
right,
money.
don't have too many babies too early, go work, right? And then that's
Yeah.
it. Right? So
Yeah.
those are the things we're taught, which I guess are good because they let you kind of find yourself, but at the same
It's a
time,
core
we don't have the
values.
it's the core
Yeah.
values, but you don't have the same springboard, man. You don't have
No.
like if your dad went to Vanderbilt or something and
Right.
was in finance and worked on Wall Street,
Oh yeah. Like
your financing job would be different.
your
I
credit score is
imagine.
already 800 when you're
Yeah, you walk
like
out the
10 years
womb and
old.
you're
Like
800.
yeah, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like yeah, like you came out the womb with an 800 credit score.
yeah. So it's just like, and
Yeah.
again, that's one aspect. They'd probably say, but my parents didn't love me like yours. I get it. There's different ways to look at it, but
Yeah.
as an outsider looking in, like you and me, it's one of those things that always irks me, man.
Yeah.
It always just irks me because, I'm just like, man, we really had to come from nothing. We
Mhm.
really, literally $20,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
paying my mom's taxes on our house because she can't afford it in my
Yeah.
30s when I'm supposed to be building up my own thing. So, but hey, those are the things we deal with, man.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing is I think that's the biggest thing that we have to deal with though, and we could kind of like summarize it to just you're building yourself up and figuring yourself out in that age, especially in your 20s and what in your teens into your 20s, you're figuring out who you are, like where you belong, what you want to do, everything, right? Hell, I'm
Yeah.
29, I'm still trying to figure that out. So I can, like even back then, that's insane. Um,
Yeah.
but being split between I want to I want to better myself and I want to invest in myself and having the guilt of doing so because you want to help like your parents out and you could use that time to like build them up and get them started. But to me it all just came down to, well, I gotta help myself first, obviously while helping them. I'm not gonna leave them like
Yeah.
in the dust, right? But you got to build
Yeah.
yourself up to be able to give back to them. And you can't give nothing. Like if you don't have anything, you can't give anything, right?
That's for sure. And and as a parent, because you don't have any kids, do you, Kevin?
No, no, but
No.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
a good perspective.
and
Yeah,
but my parents are. I mean, my kids are little, but even as a
yeah,
parent now, I imagine your parents. If I was your dad, I'd say, well, this is exactly why I came here, right? For you to progress.
exactly.
It's a
Yeah, and they
sacrifice
would
I
say
made
that.
for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the loop is like, damn, well, now I feel guilty because Dad Jesus is so nice and gave up everything for me, right?
yeah, yeah,
I can't not give him an iPhone, right? I can't not get him a
yeah,
car. I can't not. So, but they're like, as long as you're good, I'm good. But it's like, that's a mentality that makes me want to freaking help you, dude. Stop.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of like the little loop we face.
Yeah, no. And I imagine you felt like the same type of just the pressure, right? Because of succeeding quickly too. It's like, damn, I want to get there like fast. And I feel like I have like that type of pressure too, where I just want to get it done, but you have to be patient, to kind of
Yeah, you gotta be
navigate it all.
patient. But you gotta be patient but persistent, right? So like
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
so it's just like those years fly by, man. Like I remember like it was yesterday signing up for my PhD program. That crap took me
yeah.
like 6 years to complete. So
Oh my
like I
gosh.
mean, and now it feels like a thing of the past, you know. But
Yeah. So what program did you do for your
so
PhD?
I
And what was
got
the
my
process
PhD.
like? I'm so interested in
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So well, my PhD was so my PhD's in criminal justice with a focus on school delinquency. So
Interesting. Okay.
I'm heavy on school delinquency. That's kind of like my thing. Um,
How'd you
and
figure
I
that? Like,
because I did a 3 year stint as a juvenile probation officer. Before I got into my
oh,
PhD program, I
yeah.
worked with adults and I worked with kids, and I realized, you're 29, so I was 20. This is 2013. I would have been 15 years younger or something. 20.
Yeah.
So I don't know, right about your age, 26 or something. And
Right.
there's
Yeah.
something about telling a 45-year-old man what he's supposed to behave like. And I was like, I'm not going to say he's a lost cause. He's not, because I believe in reform.
yeah.
But at
Yeah.
50,
Yes.
if you're still doing it and your first arrest was in 74 and you're
Oh
still doing
boy.
this crap, I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah. It's
not a lost cause, but I'm not as
it's
enthusiastic
harder.
about the
Right.
topic. Yeah, I'm not as
Yes.
enthusiastic. But a 14-year-old kid, I found I started to realize the influence that the school had on him. I started to realize that if you just place these kids in different areas with different parents or
Mm.
different school, if you remove them from one school, a lot of them flourish just in another setting, in another environment when we would
Yeah.
place them like somewhere else. So I was like, so one, I was fascinated by the kind of the sociological aspect behind it, but two, I was very interested in how easily we could use something like school systems to
Mm.
for the better like that. So sometimes a lot of these kids are like throwaway kids, or they give up on them when really it's something we can actually do to fix it. That's well within reach. So it kind of just made me realize I was very that's where my heart is, if you will. So I
Yeah.
decided to lean my studies towards where my passion and my heart was, which is with kids.
Wow. No, that's amazing. I love that because that's real impact right there. Especially I'm sure because you probably saw that a lot of kids, like a lot of Latinos probably were part of that, like that system, right?
Oh,
That
dude,
you
a
can,
bunch. Yeah, a
yeah. So
bunch.
I'm sure that
Undocumented ones too.
I was gonna say, so I'm sure it's like kind of like you see yourself in like, wow, I could have been in their shoes if it was a different story, like if I was in a different environment, if maybe I came here by myself, like how is seeing that and you can pretty much relate to it and
Yeah,
doing that work. How has that impacted you?
man, I got this one kid. He lived off, you won't know the streets, but a rough side
Yeah.
in the north side of Houston. It's a rough
Okay.
neighborhood, one of the rough neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And I remember doing a house visit, and I knocked on his door. It was this young Mexican kid. He was a good-looking guy. He was tall, well built. Already had tattoos at like 15, but he
Oh
was
wow.
he was kind of a funny kid or whatever. And he lived with his older brother who had custody because I think dad was in prison and mom was not a part of the family.
Yeah.
So the older brother's like 19 with custody of his like 14 or 15-year-old brother. And so
Kids raising
then,
kids.
right, so I go and knock on the door, and as soon as I open it, the weed smoke
Oh
just
my
like billows
gosh.
out like a
Like hot
chimney, dude,
box their whole house.
Yeah,
Like
or something, man. I'm just like, and they're just like
jeez.
shirtless, a bunch of like tatted up Mexican guys, and they're just like, and he came out the door, and his eyes were all bloodshot,
Oh boy.
and I'm just like, it hit me then and there, like this kid was born here, but I probably wouldn't trade places with him. So that's those are the things that made me realize, like, man, if I was in this environment, I probably would have been worse than this kid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he still
Hmm.
has some good aspects to him. He was really trying really hard. But yeah, that environment, you realize very quickly, like we have the luxury of growing up in a loving home,
Right.
and although we had some other drawbacks when it comes to our legal status, that probably would have played a bigger factor than you being a DACA student. You know what I mean? Is
Hmm.
growing up in an environment like that. So, yeah, no, very grateful for it, and it was an eye opener. It was an eye
Yeah.
opener for sure, man, and it made me realize, oh man, this is kind of like where the one thing that gets me going the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after you did that, what came of that? Because you have to do like your whole like thesis
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that,
So
right?
yeah, this is before I got into my PhD program, but I was between law school and I actually at the time worked at a law firm. I was doing
Oh,
like
okay.
we do like commercials and then go to a call center and I ran like the numbers and the data behind the calls and like the follow-ups and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But anyway, so I'm familiar with kind of the legal field, so I thought about going to law school. But because of my situation, I kind of did that job more and more. So I saw that aspect a little bit. And I realized pretty quickly, the profession of being a lawyer wasn't, I never liked it. I never, like the actual legal work is really boring. You know what I mean? And it's not
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
at all.
yeah. You're gonna be doing a lot of paperwork for
You're gonna
sure.
be doing a lot of paperwork,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's not that exciting. And like 1% of the really good ones get to go to trial and do what you
Right.
see in the movies. Most of them are just writing briefs or whatever, you know. So I learned very quickly that I probably didn't actually want to do that. So I said, if I can find an alternative that's reasonable, that
Yeah.
is financially feasible and responsible, then I'm gonna go for it. And then so I found this PhD program. It was a part-time night program here in Houston at an affordable university. So I
Okay.
said, screw it, I'm going for it. I'm not doing the law school thing. I'm going to go get my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
Originally with the intention of teaching
Oh, okay.
in higher ed, but now I use it for my current job where I actually work at a Department of Education at the county level. There's only
Oh.
one we're the last ones in the state, and there's only like a handful of us in the whole country now.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
so when the
Oh
feds
boy.
created theirs, a lot of the local ones saw no need for the resources. So, but we kind of persevered because we kind of do all kinds of things. So I work doing research now in the education field, focusing on school safety and things like that. But when I was in college, yeah, I started thinking. I went back to my days when I was a juvenile operation officer. I went back to my days,
Yeah.
working with adults, and I came up with I studied ESL students in high school settings and examined their delinquency rates versus their non-ESL counterparts. So like
That's
to try to
interesting. Yeah,
see like yeah, because if you think about it,
tell us
like
a bit more about that. That's so interesting to me.
well, because my logic was like, if you put kids in a lot of times the arguments are like, there's not a race-based argument or anything, that it's actually the factors that are social factors, and a school setting would be like a hard perimeter where you can say, okay, these students are around the same kind of students, so you would expect similar outcomes among those groups of students. So I was always interested in say, okay, what if I take all the Hispanic kids and
Yep.
I split the ones that speak English and I split the ones that don't. So I was always fascinated and still am
Mm-hmm.
fascinated with going beyond just the like Hispanic label,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's a little bit of a tired topic, and I'm not the kind of person that's like gets caught up on like identity politics or anything, but there is something there to be said. You know this, I know this.
Yep.
If you, I was born in Mexico, but I came when I was one.
Yep.
If you're coding things from a data perspective and you're saying one column native born yes or no, I would be a no, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
lump me in with the kid that got here last week, even though
Yep.
I've been here my whole life. And so that's not an accurate depiction of what we're looking at here. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, a more accurate depiction of that specific scenario would be like, can this kid speak English? I feel like that's a more accurate.
Yeah, just adding like one more layer, right?
Correct.
That would
Correct.
just be more accurate. Yeah.
Correct. So I would argue that if you don't speak English in high school, you there is a little bit of a gap between someone who
Absolutely.
does. That's
Mm-hmm.
beyond the legal or anything. So that was my approach. So
Man, that's
and
so
I'm kind of
interesting.
still looking at that stuff now. So but yeah, that's kind of what I'm passionate about, is really trying to focus on immigrant kids who don't speak English,
Yeah.
and trying to see what issues they're facing.
And do you have to do you do like that type of work like professionally as well? Like is that what you do in your everyday
Yeah, yeah. So what at my
that
everyday we
yeah.
are a county-wide Department of Education.
Right.
So there's 25 school districts here in Harris
Yeah.
County, and it's huge. It's like the fourth biggest county in the nation, which is
Yep.
the county around Houston, Texas. Have you ever
Yep.
been to Houston, by the way?
No, only past like
You
by the
never
rabbit.
been?
I heard of
Oh,
Harris County just because of like um I watch a lot of like when there's voting and like the election
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
everything
yeah.
going out. That's always one that like they're
It's
always
like
going
blue,
back
like
to.
an ocean
Yeah,
of red,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like a
yeah,
blue
yeah.
little
So
bubble.
it's
Yeah,
when you see it on the map, yeah, it's like
yeah.
Harris County. Like, oh, I'm like, oh,
It's
interesting.
us, Dallas, Fort Worth, and then San Antonio are like the blue little dots
Mm-hmm.
in the map.
Yep. So that's
Oh,
why
and
I've
in the
heard it.
valley
It's
down
always like a
there.
big one that they're naming it. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so professionally, I work for a department of ed that services all of those districts, and I get
Ah,
to do all kinds of different research. I work at a division within the Department of Education called Research and Evaluation. So
yeah.
basically, I get to do research for a living through my job as at the Department of Ed.
That's awesome. How did you land in that spot? Like, were you just applying and you're like, this is something that kind of
Yeah,
likes
yeah.
me, you know?
I mean, I had my two kids, and I was working
Yeah.
at another place. Like, this is a place where I get to kind of do what I want, and I get to get paid a decent amount for it, and it frees me up to be with my kids and stuff. So it was like, man, it was like the best of both worlds for me. So I went
Yeah.
in, and I realized I really like. I get to present at conferences. I get to do. I'm like, man, I used to have to pay to do this in grad school. Now I'm getting paid to do this. So
Yeah.
I feel
Look, it paid
very.
off. Hey, that right there is everything that you worked hard for. You where you're like, I need to do this, right? Like when you were a kid growing up, going to education, going through your higher education, and you're like, this is I don't have anything else to do, but like I know this is the right thing to do. Well, now
Yeah.
you know that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, it was the right call in hindsight. In hindsight, I should have, probably we all should have studied AI engineering or something, but
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, yeah. All right, sure, sure. If I,
but
in hindsight, I would have studied like computer engineering when I was in like middle school.
right, you would have bought Bitcoin back
Right,
in the
that's what I'm
vault.
saying. I would have been like super rich right now. I probably wouldn't even be in the U.S. now. I'd be like somewhere else.
Where would you go? Would you go back to Guatemala? Isn't that kind of ironic? You'd probably like.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean,
sort of funny, right? Like if you had, I don't know, not
I
ironic,
have.
I guess. That's not the right word, but
I guess it's just kind of like your feeling of what you missed out on. It's like your life that could have been there, but now it's like different because you also have like if you have a bunch of money, like you're kind of also probably living in like the richer parts. So
that's
I don't
true.
know.
That's true.
I
Yeah.
don't know. There's so many like
I
components.
tell you something, and this is gonna sound like like a boomer unstatus or whatever. I don't care, but I'm gonna say it.
Yeah,
One cheat code to it is having kids,
yeah.
because they instantly give you something beyond yourself that you kind of strive towards. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's almost like a cheat code
That's
because
true.
now you don't have to deal with the existential thoughts of like, what am I doing? What am I? You just like, as long as my kids are good.
Yeah, you're concentrating on
So
on their
yeah,
needs.
it's kind of
Yeah,
a cop out a little bit. You know what I mean? Because if you
yeah,
don't, I
yeah,
imagine if I didn't have kids, I'd really be asking myself, wait, hold on, am I really living to
yeah.
my full potential? Am I really doing it? So
But a lot of people are asking themselves that right now because of everything that's going on in the political environment. There's a group on Facebook that I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like pretty popular. It's called like Onward, and it's basically like self. Well, I don't want to say self-deporting because a lot of people hate that term, and
mm,
because you're kind of choosing to go, you're choosing to leave. But anyways, that's become more popular. Is whether they're documented or just completely undocumented. They're
they're
choosing to
opting to go
go,
home instead.
yeah, either to go home or see if they can get like a visa to go to like Spain or like I don't know Canada for like work purposes, depending what they do, right? But that's
Yeah.
become even more popular just because they're kind of like, well, we've been here for so long and just haven't done like much for us, and I feel like I'm losing like my years. You know what I mean? Like my prime years of what my life
Correct,
could
correct.
be.
And
So I
now
know
with
that's
the internet, I
interesting.
mean, the internet's a whole new game changer, honestly, for that
Oh
because
yeah,
like you speak perfect English. Like you could technically work your job anywhere in the world, and
yeah.
you could do all these things anywhere in the world. So
Hmm.
maybe that's kind of exciting for people, because
That's true. Yeah.
it's a little bit of an exciting prospect because I mean, you don't have to be geographically tied to the states anymore. Because
Yeah.
our parents came here because it was their best shot. They kind of just took a shot in
Yes.
the dark,
Yeah. You're
you
right.
know.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
their job was just to get you here. Their job was just to physically get you to
Yeah.
America. You kind of had the hard job of from
Like
then, like making
building it
something
up.
of it. Yeah,
Yeah, look, they
but
knew that they would have the
yeah,
best bet. You're right. They knew they had the best bet by just putting you in this environment. Again, that environment, right?
yeah. But then
Yeah.
you kind of had the benefit of one. I always say one perk of being undocumented is that that guilt was also a motivator, an endless, relentless motivator to not
Yeah.
fail. Because how can you do this? How can you come? How can your parents come from Guatemala, lose everything, their whole heritage, their whole family, leave
Yeah.
family behind for you, Kevin, to come to the States and then you drop out of college? What a, kind of almost cringe
That's
to think
insane.
about it, right?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
you. So that was not an option for me at all, ever. It was so, in that way, I'm grateful because it was like crazy motivation. Versus if my
Yeah.
parents were well off, then it's like I could just like take 2 years off or whatever, and then just kind of do that. And I'm not making fun
Yeah.
of them or anything, but it's just you have the option. I never had the option, bro, because
Yeah.
the disappointment would be too much.
Right. No, like to a lot of us, like failure is not an option. You know what I mean? Like that's just one of the things. Like it's okay to get down, but you have to pick yourself back up because you can't completely fail. Like you always have that lingering in the back of your head. Like, well, parents came here for like a better future. And I'm kind of trying to live up to that. So living up to that, you can get into like expectations and all that. It's like a
Oh,
whole other
but
thing.
sometimes they have dated. Okay, this is another thing that anybody
Yeah.
narcissist, they're you have to think about it like this. Okay,
Yeah.
my mom is like 62 or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she was born like in 1960, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or some crap like that. Her
Mm-hmm.
mom would have been born like in the 30s.
Yep.
Okay. So life in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and then
Yeah.
in their 60s when they were kids is not society as it is today. The life in the 60s was shaped still kind of in the old paradigm of what success was.
Right.
The banker, the lawyer, the el licenciado, you know what I mean?
Yep. The
And whatever.
doctor.
That's
Mm-hmm.
the doctor. That's what success was. This is a lot of
Mm-hmm.
immigrant. It's not specific to Hispanics, but
Yeah.
a lot of immigrants kind of deal with that. So they have a
Yeah, you're
warped
right.
sense of what success is. So then now you come in and you say, actually, mom, I could drop out and work at this hedge fund. And they're like, drop out of college? Are you stupid, right?
That's
Even though
true. Yeah.
because now you are dumb for that, but
Yeah.
they don't understand that you're just gonna work this is the dream job anyway.
Yeah.
So alternative avenues are really, really, really kind of frowned upon in our societies because you were seen as a failure because the path is clear because in 1954 these were the successful people.
I mean, yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you graduate and you get a degree, you join that class that doesn't exist anymore, right? But
Yeah.
in their mind it does then. So in a lot of ways we're fighting that too, man, and it impacts a lot of students.
Yeah, that's so true. And I mean, even explaining it to how, like, there's with like the internet again and technology, right? Like, imagine telling your parents like, "Oh, I made like this amount of money from like a TikTok live, which is like a very like real thing
Yeah,
these days," and they'll be like,
they'd be
"What do you
concerned.
mean?" They're like,
They
"What do
would
you
be
mean?"
concerned. They'd
You're
be
like, "I just
concerned, yeah. They'd be
yeah."
and then you get into this whole like even like the role expectation of you as a man or me as a man and then what you're supposed to be
Right.
doing versus what you're doing and it's just like
Yeah, and it's like so many different like I don't know, it's such an interesting world where a time that we're living in for sure.
and another thing is like and this is then I again my mom is top five, right? My dad is
Yeah.
top 10, let's say that.
Yeah, yeah.
But he they also a little bit when I talk to them, and I don't know if you agree, but I've seen other people with similar situations. They also have this sort of like this idea of like, oh, I would have done this, or I would have, or we would have done this. Had I got these opportunities, these things would have
Oh
happened
yes,
differently.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like, come on, you're cool. You ain't that cool, bro. Like, I love
Yeah.
you. Yes, you're smart. You're loving. I
That's
get it.
so
But
true.
but
Yeah.
but the world is cold and cruel, man, and it is
Yeah.
hard. It is hard to win out here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's me saying I've never played this game, but if I played it, man, I would have been the best,
The
right? And
best.
it's
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
so
It's
when
like,
you're not the
okay.
best, right? So then when you're not the best, I'm comparing my ideals of what I would have potentially been to what you're actually doing, and I'm saying you're down here, bro. I would have been the
No, that's
president by
so
now,
funny.
right?
That's so funny because I go back to the if we stick on the TikTok example, that's like I remember my mom once be like, "Hey, you should do like TikTok. Like I hear so many people make like thousands of dollars doing that. Like it's so easy. Like you can just go out there and like you should just do it and see like if
You're
you
so
probably make
lazy.
so
You
much
didn't you
money.
didn't
Yeah,
want
it's so
thousands from
easy.
doing
Like if I was
it.
doing it, like I would probably do so much money. If I was your age, like that's what I would do.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh mom, like I'm
It's a
like,
it's a it's a it's a false ideal of the achievements they would have had in a game they never got to play.
exactly,
You know,
exactly. Yep,
and and and
that's
now
a way
they're
to put
seeing
it.
you, and you're like, bro, it's so easy. You're right. Just hit record and do the
Yeah, yeah,
dance.
yeah. Just post it, and like
You
you're
just
good.
post it,
Like
and that's it, or do
yeah, and
reviews or
then
whatever. So,
you get your money at the end of the month. Like,
but I don't know.
uh,
I think these are all things we all sort of generally have in common, But it's all part of the navigation and navigating through it and finding success through it all.
yeah, yeah. And listen, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I will give you some more. I guess the last we'll do two closeout questions here.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
Um, we'll do mine one that I was interested just for our listeners that were that any that are undocumented now just would be interested or maybe even were just like from someone like from your perspective from someone who's gone through higher education like what's one thing that you would specifically like change if you could um, for undocumented students that are trying to navigate through it like in the system.
One thing I would change in the system.
Yeah, for that would impact like undocumented students that are just trying to achieve higher education.
Um, I'll just a couple of things off the top of my head is
Yeah,
one financing options. We kind of covered that already, but I think that is utterly detrimental. A
huge.
lot of a lot
Mm-hmm.
of big universities like Harvard are saying if you make if you they're not doing it based on legal status, they're saying on income. So
Yep.
a lot of these families will qualify for that. So that's a good trend to see, but I think I would change that. Um, I think I would incorporate, and this may be easier said than done, but in a general concept, I would incorporate some sort of like these universities are so bloated. What's one more freaking department, right? I mean, so that I'm gonna
Yeah.
make a new one up, right?
Yeah.
Um, the Department of First Gen College Student Parent Connection or something, and their sole task of these people would be to try to communicate. Like I was in my PhD program, and my mom didn't know what GPA meant.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I mean, here I am getting my doctorate degree, and my
Right.
mom
Like, oh, are you doing
doesn't
good?
have
It's like,
it.
yeah, but they have like no idea like
Yeah, she was like, "Are you
the.
getting A's and B's?"
Yeah.
And like
Right.
that's
Exactly. Yeah.
doesn't know any of this, bro.
You're like, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You're like,
And it's not that she's
listen,
not
like,
smart. It's not that she's
no,
not
no,
smart. It's just it was never explained to her.
exactly. Yeah.
And so
It's a different
maybe
system, you know.
correct. So maybe some sort of communication or maybe even a broadcasting system
Maybe
where you
outreach.
target specifically first gen immigrant students and
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, I know you only got to middle school, but this is what's important for your students, for your kid.
Yeah.
They're not a kid anymore. I get that, but uh, yes, they're adults. I understand that, but the parents in these cases, in our cases, the parents still play a huge role in their lives. So, and probably in all cases, but in us in specific, it's my parent has nothing, doesn't know anything about it. So I would say incorporating some sort of department or some sort of effort to try to educate the parents of these young college students would be a game changer. Um,
I love that a lot, and not to interrupt you because
yeah,
I feel like that could be implemented in education in general, like starting at like middle school or elementary school is like
correct.
outreach to these parents of these kids, like hey maybe like come in and like maybe I know it's not easy, like you're working like a lot, but like maybe come in like once a week or something just to learn like what they kind of got to go through in the education system. That'd
Yeah,
be
yeah, or even like I mean, explain to them what college credits are. Explain to them what
right.
early college opportunities exist.
Yes.
What the
Yeah.
timeline for these, because a lot of the times these parents, if yours were anything like mine and my friends, their source of information about all this is you, the student.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna tell her
Exactly. No,
that there's these
exactly.
hard things I can do. Hell no,
Yeah. And it's
I'm
hard to
on level.
explain too. Like, and you're
Yeah,
already
as a
stressed
kid.
enough. Like,
Yeah, so I'm just like, you can't rely on the student to be the translator and
yeah.
the information conveyor. Like, you got
Right.
to be able to do that on your own. So I think that's a big one. Uh, I would also, I think internships, a lot of them
Yeah.
require some sort of like you're not if you're not getting paid for it, damn it, don't require social security number for it. I get it for
Yeah.
background
That.
checks
Yeah.
and but I
Right.
feel like you can get by without it. So a lot of opportunities are missed because
Yeah.
students don't have even like with me when I was in college, like we had to do a police ride along and like I
Interesting.
remember my professor was like, this is the assignment. You don't have to do it, but if you don't, you have to write like a 30-page article,
Oh,
30-page
brother.
essay on this book. And he said it almost jokingly,
Oh, okay. Like,
like it's either this or
like,
give me $1 billion, ha ha ha, right?
yeah, right, right. You're like, well, I
And
guess I have to give you $1 billion.
so so I wrote the damn
Yeah.
article and I handed it to him. This is back when
Yeah.
we used to print papers like in '08 or something.
Yep.
And I handed it to him and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is my article for this is pre-chat GPT, so I'd have to actually
Yeah.
I hate that the most. I graduated right before this shit kicked off, man. I'm like
You're like,
uh,
damn it! I should have held off. I should have held
I think
off.
2021 graduates, 2022 were the last ones to write a whole dissertation by themselves for real, but
Yep.
that's all right.
Yeah.
But so anyways, I it's opportunities like that. So I'd say minimize those things and let these kids really benefit from the education. Make sure the
Mm-hmm.
parents are communicated. And I would have liked to have known more students in similar situations when I was going through it. So I didn't
Yeah.
have any support system in terms of that. So I was
Right.
I think a lot of these kids are going at night, going part-time school, so they're just soloing it out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So any sort of social group, social networking that's available. I guess now with social media, you could probably do that a lot easier. When I was a
Yeah.
freshman in college, we were on MySpace, man. So it's a little different
Good
now,
old MySpace. Yep.
A little
And
different.
those are all very, very good things that could definitely be implemented. And I think, like, there's a few colleges, maybe like ACLU or something like that in California, that I think are trying to do that. Like, I've met some people that kind of work with staff that particularly try to engage like undocumented students. And it's not huge, but like it's big there, like in California, obviously with the population. There's so many like undocumented kids that want to go to college, and they like outreach to them, and
No,
that'd be so amazing to just see like implemented, throughout the U.S.
I
with
would
just
love
the
that, man.
resources. It's just
Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see that because it ultimately, without getting political, the ultimate question is, do we want young people to be educated or not? Do we want them
yeah,
to be skilled in something or not? Do
right,
we want them to be well versed or not?
right,
So I don't care how you feel about them. If they're going to be here potentially for most of them are going to be here for the long term.
mm-hmm,
You are doing a disservice to the nation by not educating, not giving them at least
absolutely
the equal
the
opportunity to
chance.
get educated and skill up. So
Yeah,
I get the whole rhetoric or whatever. I understand that, but it doesn't make any sense.
mm-mm.
Doesn't make any sense. Actually, funny quick story.
Yeah, of course.
When I started, um, 2008, 2007, 2008, when I first started college, Rick Perry. Do you know who Rick Perry is?
Why does it sound familiar?
He's like a Republican. He was a Texas guy, Texas politician.
All right, go on while I look him up.
Yeah. So basically, and it's not meant to be a political statement, but he at the time argued for undocumented students,
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Hmm.
and he gave us a chance to actually get something called TASFA, which is a Texas financial aid. Not as much as FAFSA,
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's the argument he gave. He said, yeah, have a heart. These kids are trying to better themselves, and ultimately, do you want these kids to be educated or not? So I think in that opportunity, that was done at the state level. I don't think it exists anymore, but at that time, back 20 years ago, that's what helped me a little bit to pay some of it anyway.
Yeah, that's amazing. Even just looking for those resources, right? Like again, you just have to keep looking for it. And it does suck that you have to go out like to look like do a lot of digging just to
Yeah,
try
yeah.
just to get to like what you're trying to look for just because it's
But
so
it was foreshadowing of what was to come, man. That's life. That's
yeah,
life for us, right? You gotta
right.
find
That's
solutions.
true though.
You
That's true.
gotta
You know
find
what?
solutions to everything. It won't work the straight way, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
You kind of have to beat around the
Make it
bush
work.
and make it work.
Make it
Exactly,
work. Yeah.
exactly,
Uh,
man.
all right. Well, Jesus, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Last thing that I do want to ask you is just like, what's the one message that you want undocumented students and maybe even like their educators that are trying to support them just to take away from like your story and like everything that you've been through?
My one message is, regardless of where you're at, and regardless of what the future is going to hold for you, the best thing you can do at the moment is to prepare yourself for whatever future you want, because the alternative is doing nothing, and that's not going to help you. So at least play the cards that you have to the best of your abilities. Take advantage of time and take advantage of the perks that you do have. If you have a loving family, if you have good health, take advantage of these things to try to get ahead as much as you can there. So prepare yourself as best as you can. Education is probably the best way to do it. It's not the only way to do it, but it's one of the best ways to do it. You can scale up by other methods too, right? Not just formal universities and education,
Yeah.
but there's other things you can do. So I would say get ready for it, because the last thing you want, you can't pray and ask for something and not be ready for it when it hits you, right? I got
Mm.
I got my first job like 4 days after my work permit hit the mail, because I already had a list of who I was going to contact. I already had leads of people that I knew in my personal life who had my best friend at the time sister got me my first job, and I already knew she worked at somewhere that I wanted. So be ready for it. That's my main message. Be ready for it,
Nice.
and prepare yourself as much as you can, because it's coming. That's how you have to think about it. That's what I would say to students. And don't give up, man. Don't give up, because there's a, like they say, well, there's always a silver lining to everything. So even in the worst case
Yeah.
scenario, like you said, in a worst case scenario, what you grew up in a safe, generally safe country. You got to be educated. You got to learn to speak English fluently. You obtained a formal education in the United States of America, and that's going to go a long way in an absolute worst case scenario where you have to go back. So, whatever the
Yeah.
scenario is, man, your best bet is to do something with yourself and move forward. With educators, I would say have some patience, man. Have some patience with some of these
Yeah.
kids. A lot of us go in there not going in there because our girlfriend told us we have to go, if
Yeah.
not, if not,
And
we
look where
can't
you're
be
at
with them.
now.
Yeah, that's just sad. So I would say to professors and even high school teachers, just have some patience with them. A lot of them just straight up, it's not that they don't want to know, it's that they were never told any of this. What may be normal to you because your parents went to college or whatever is not their norm. It's not their world. So try to come and approach them with that sort of understanding. Not that they're not capable or smart enough to know. It's just that they weren't raised like that. So be patient with them and try to guide them as best as you can to help them with the journey, because it's going to be a tough one. But hey, that's the cards we were dealt, right, Kevin?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you gotta play those cards, right? You gotta play with what you have, and even bluff if you need to, right?
Yeah, dude.
Like bluff.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, man.
Yep,
You
you
got to
gotta
do
do
it.
what you gotta do.
And last thing, man, it,
Yeah,
it it time will fly. So if you're 20,
yeah,
you're 20 years old right now, and you're like, I'm undocumented. Am I gonna get a job? I've been there, man. I've been there. I was there 18 years ago.
yeah.
The time's gonna absolutely fly. So take a breath, go to bed, right? Wake up, make a plan, make a
Prepare,
plan of
prepare.
attack. Write three things you can do, three major big goals that you can work towards, whatever is most meaningful to you, and get to it. And I promise you, when this thing gets better, you'll be ready for it. That's what you have to do.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, get to it, baby. That's a beautiful message
That's
to
it,
close
man.
out on. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much, Jesus, for coming on here and just dropping some knowledge, some dimes, sharing your story that a lot of us can relate to, and just tips as well for people that want to just pursue higher education, and might be feeling stuck or maybe just wondering like, hey, I don't know if that's the right way for me. Is it even worth it or not?
Sure.
So, no, I appreciate you coming on here. Is there anything that you want to shout out, or is there any places where people can get in contact with you if they wanted to?
Yeah. So, anybody, are you going to be able to link anything I give you?
Yeah,
Like
I'm gonna put it in the
okay.
episode description. Yep.
Okay, so I'll just put my LinkedIn there. Anybody that's undocumented in college that wants to reach out, has any questions, anything that they feel like I can help with, please, I encourage you to reach out. I may or may not be able to help, but I'll be willing to try. So I'll leave the link to my LinkedIn. Please shoot me a message if I can be of any help or assistance in any way. Let me know. And yeah, that's it, man. I'll make myself available. This is my passion, dude. I feel like
I can hear it.
this is my passion, man.
I can
This is
hear
my
it,
passion.
man.
So if I can help someone out, you would make my day hearing from you. So
Yeah.
let me be a resource if I can.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a family or a friend and rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps tremendously in order to bring more awareness and educational resources to our community. For more information and to stay up to date with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Instagram at Latinoamericaneo, and if you need more information and resources, you can visit my website, latinoamericaneo.org. I'm Kevin Munoz. This has been the Leo Podcast, and I'll see you next time.